The great military philosopher Sun Tzu warned his students not to let their enemies pick the time and location of battles. Sun Tzu wrote, "The clever combatant imposes his will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy's will to be imposed upon him." When you fight on your enemy's terms, it rarely works out well. You'd think this would be self-evident, but time and again conservatives let liberals define the fights. It's no wonder the war for our culture and republic is in shambles. I'm Michael Quinn Sullivan with a reflection on life and liberty. Words matter. They shape how we view the world. For example, the Himba tribe from Naumbi has no word for the color blue. When researchers showed them diagrams of 12 squares, 11 green and 1 blue, the tribesmen didn't recognize the difference. As a jungle people, though, they saw huge differences in various shades of green that weren't completely obvious to the researchers. Language and how we use it defines our world and even shapes our actions. Conservatives have allowed themselves to be backed into a corner where they reveal themselves to be intellectually and morally insecure. Now, those words are never said, but are expressed loudly by using the language and arguing on issues determined by the left. Conservatives say they adopt the other side's language as a reasonable concession. In fact, they do it because they're either insecure or lazy, or maybe because they're revealing their true intentions. On issue after issue, time after time, conservatives cede the selection of the rhetorical battleground to the left. Here are a couple examples. We don't insist on using the language of life. Instead, we capitulate by calling the infanticide brigade pro-choice. When you define your opponents as pro-choice, you set yourself up as being a heartbeat away from losing. I cringe when I hear Republicans talk about government budgets paying for tax cuts. When one starts, as leftists do, with the presumption government owns everything, then perhaps government decides how much you keep of what they say is their money in your bank account. But as conservatives, allegedly, we believe wealth is created by individuals, which government then taxes. Governments have only what has been taken from the citizens. People who enter the country without permission have long been known legally as illegal aliens. They do not belong where they are and have broken laws to enter. But the term illegal aliens became illegal immigrants, and now that's morphed to undocumented migrants. This was a purposeful transition by the left. Listen to speeches on the border crisis from your favorite conservative politicians and see how often they will talk about the issue using words of the left. Then think about why those politicians are having so little success in solving the issue. They have allowed their opposition to define the issue, which in turn determines the actions they take and how they establish success. How you approach the problem of undocumented migrants is vastly different than how you deal with invaders. Again, language defines our world and shapes our actions. If conservatives want to be competitive in the war for culture and government, they must stop letting liberals pick the battlefields and defining the terms. Conservatives cannot afford any longer to be bullied into using the left's manipulated language. If conservatives are to be dominant in the war for our culture and government, they must be more disciplined in their language. More importantly, conservatives must impose on the national conversation the issues that matter most to them and define success as nothing less than saving our republic. If you like the Reflections podcast, be sure to subscribe, rate it, leave a review, and encourage your friends to listen. The Reflections podcast is presented by Texas Scorecard and was produced today by Luke Marshall in the 1836 studios. I'm Michael Quinn Sullivan. Thanks for listening.